We will call to order December 12th, 2023, to council meeting at 6 p.m. We will please stand in that.
It's state which sustains nation individual to me justice right.
The record reflected that we have full attendance in the town council evening and a room. So we'll wish person David happy birthday. Thank you for spending your birthday certain. It's moving into the comment. And 4 individuals. Seats will begin with Miss Sally Hoover, 610 second. And if you come to the building.
About the Louisville, and I was told by Nick Mandy that it wasn't going to happen. The Rotary Club Pavilion, but I found out it's really not. Okay, so the virtual meetings were about that, and all that I read, people were against it. I really didn't read anywhere, and then thing happened that you guys decided to stand with the money, and it was done. But now, 9 days later, it's still not done. The money has been sent back already, and I didn't want to why.
So let me address that a little bit. Obviously, we didn't popular previous meeting, but we voted for was that council gave us the ability to do was to bring back reasonable proposals back to town council that may address the utilization of the Windermere funding. So I felt it was smart funding to bring a solution, compromise that we help with the rehabilitation of town hall, as well as the main requirements of that Windermere agreement. So that's the difference there. The council never sent the money back, never ordered it back. What we said is we're going to go not obviously happy. So in response to that, that's where we went down one path. With the permission from the council to look at other solutions and bring that back in the state to have a discussion about it. That's what we'll do. As well. That's what we're at.
The people in the same country don't. And even it's like we said, discussion, and it's not, that's not what you should be doing. It's already been discussed. And the majority of the people didn't.
So the discussion is ongoing, and the discussion and decision is made with public input by the council. And we'll work on that tonight or another night, based upon whatever council decides at this meeting. So there's a lot of positive feedback, as it's not all just negative feedback from the revised discussions. You're right, there was a lot of negative feedback on the pavilion itself, and that's what kind of down.
You're should make what people. It should be not just for you. And I think it was only, yeah, but the majority of the people that got on the 20. In. So I think one is get up. We. When we. And we're still continue to cover. The cover.
So I guess, what Sally, I certainly hear your comments, and I know all of council does, and we appreciate that. Let's go through the process tonight and hear a little bit more about the pros and cons, and then we'll make a decision at that.
If it's used for reports, but it's not, I think it's traditional, or children of still. And jumping over things, kissing, with the with droves of people and traffic. And that's usually bring, try to keep this commerce we have, which means don't bring in more people. And anytime there are stuff around, it is for people. We don't need people. The rest, I'm not here to use it. I'm saying, I can't imagine for so many. Yeah, and. Yeah. So keep that in mind, the money to repair the room, do things like that, stand, but don't expand. It's built. It doesn't need to be there.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Bob, again.
We can, first of all, I do appreciate the efforts of everyone on town council. All of our elected officials. And the town employees. They all work hard, all of you do, and I appreciate that effort. I agree that the town hall is in bad need of repair. I have mentioned this on several occasions. Rotting wood needs to be replaced. Kitchen needs to be updated and made to something that is usable. Residents of this town are responsible for offices and buildings necessary for the use of the residents and town employees to get the job done. It is not to provide a rental venue, which this seems to be leaning towards with a private room. And come on, really? You're trying to generate revenue with a historical building. That's not the responsibility of the residents of this town. June, there was a public meeting, and overwhelmingly in that meeting, the residents of this town said they didn't want anything out in this open area, that it would interfere with both wine and dine and pet fest. I was on that meeting. Following that meeting, you had a council workshop in June to where the consensus was to repay the money like the rest requested, repay the money, which at that time was approximately $100,000, with an approved itemized list being presented to council for approval. Somewhere within the next 2 weeks, one of the council members, and I overheard it, one of the council members was told at that time was not going to be here for the July meeting, that's the way the vote would be in July, at the monthly council meetings. Well, Bobby Bear had a few years ago, it was called a sneaky snake. Guy was going around with great volume root beer. Somewhere here we have a sneaky snake. Because somewhere within the next 2 to 3 weeks, that was changed. And then there was an approval to table that for 90 days. There is no official word that I can find within that 90-day period that extended it, that any action was taken. Nothing in any of the council meetings where it was addressed. Really disappointed. Because we should have paid that money back then. But because someone had a better idea that we could use it here, and now when I look at the plans, we've got extra doors going in, pass-through window, and instead of a pavilion, we have an entertainment gazebo. Really? I suggest you think long and hard about what you're fixing to do, because it goes against what the residents of this town requested. Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Nora,
Nora Brophy, 426 Magnolia Street. So first, we have some very exciting news. Half of the shade structure has been installed at Palmer Park. So the posts are in, and hopefully next week the top will go on. So just in time for winter, but it is very exciting news. But on the town hall, I did not log into the town hall workshop last week because I'd already been on a workshop, and normally the workshops are always the same. There's workshops 1, 2, and 3, and everything is the same. It just allows residents the opportunity to log on and see what's going on. So I assumed that workshop 3 would be the same as workshop 1 and 2, and I was really surprised to find out that it was completely different. I mean, it looks to me like the pavilion project is just sort of glommed onto the town hall. So we've turned the pavilion into the performance gazebo, and the addition of that 16-foot wide porch along the side and the pass-through windows has turned the kitchen into a concession stand. But as other people have said, residents were pretty clear, we don't want that. We don't want a concession stand. We don't want any more events. We don't want any more noise. I mean, I know I've been complaining to some of my neighbors about 2 weeks ago, Saturday and Sunday night, there was some kind of really loud stuff going on. But if you live in the downtown area, you hear all of that. And we don't really want any more of it. So, I mean, residents were very clear. They didn't want a pavilion, a concession stand, or anything that would attract more noise. And yet, here we are again. We're looking at the same thing. So I hope we can slow this down. I hope we can have another workshop. We need to map out all these proposed changes. I mean, I came here with, a measuring tape, and 28 feet from the corner of the porch is a long way. So we need to look at that, and that, a 16-foot porch on the side pushes, it comes almost to the end of the sidewalk. So then you have to build a new sidewalk, and now you're encroaching on the oak trees, which are over there. So I think a lot more thought needs to be put into this, and I hope that we'll have some more workshops so the residents can actually look at this and see what they want. Thank you.
thank you, Nora. Next up is Nadine Sibley.
I'm Renee Shingalani. This was our first attempt at getting rid of the pavilion. 5 women who are residents of in-town, not annexed areas, went door to door. This is the map that shows where the people sign that don't want them. All the red dots, and I'll let y'all hand that around because you need to see this, are from people that live this side of the bridge and this side of Chase Road and this side of Jennifer Lane. You've just annexed another neighborhood, or about to, in Chandelier. Those people don't care what happens downtown. Oh, we're gonna have a gazebo for entertainment? Great, great, that sounds great. I don't live there, so it sounds great. You keep annexing these neighborhoods Marina Bay still has problems with their water drainage, and they were annexed years ago. We're not taking care of the people that are currently under the Windermere umbrella. 183 people. You can give or take 10 or 15. 183 people, though, signed that they did not want this. And as disappointed as I was when all the boathouse stuff came out, I'm equally disappointed in y'all now. How many more neighborhoods outside of downtown are you gonna annex so that you can staff your board? Because that's what it looks like. These are the people that live in town. They don't want it. Now, where are these people other than the chairman or vice president or whoever the Rotary is? It kind of comes down to First Baptist Church, Town of Windermere, and the Rotary. If you don't go along and if you don't like what they're doing, you know what? It doesn't matter. It's going to be rolled over. The people don't want the building. We don't need a bride screen in a town hall. We have 8 churches within 3 or 4 miles of here. This is not a venue. The entertainment gazebo, if you're going to have a wedding, you're going to have entertainment. How many weddings are we going to allow? Are we going to have Saturday at lunch and maybe one Saturday afternoon? How about a Sunday morning wedding? And then another one Sunday night. It'll never end. And I will do this again and again to stop this for you.
Thank you very much for your input. The old business items, relocation of the yeah, what happens is we come in after the meeting starts, it's a little bit all up. So you up to the podium, because otherwise we won't be able to hear you. You get your name and address as well. Thank you.
My name is Sarah. I have been in there for years, and I'm not sure who would choose to push this agenda to continue to grow. But we feel that there be arguments on the impediments for spend voting. How many times do we finish with the piece and then planning this agenda has to end out with and we 88 like that. I think you're here for this shit so this.
Thank you. Lisa.
Hello, my name is Schwarber. She worked about it. My final thing. My first question was, has anyone this Sheldon and nature. So we we have in and here the things who have Because completely on the no, in having is the work. Very sure, which fine. Story. And spending on. That's being. Like feedback and
Robert, are you gonna
I'd be honored.
why don't we do that, so we can have, the information and, have the opportunity to take all that in.
Thank you. There was an agreement between Rotary Inc., which is not the Rotary Club of Windermere, it's their 501c3, and entered into with the Healthy West Orange District for a grant of $1 million in order to build a pavilion that would have restrooms, a concession, audiovisual placement, and then also signage, and then a exercise park. Then subsequently to that agreement, the Rotary Inc. entered into an agreement with the Town of Windermere, laying out the similar elements. That agreement was entered into in June of 2021. That's how long we've been talking about this. Actually, we've been talking about it since 2019 when I looked through the records today. So after that agreement was entered into, the town looked at constructing a pavilion. Again, COVID happened, and then more input came in, and the council at the time, when this was discussed, I believe back in August, if not earlier than that, the motion was to not proceed forward with the pavilion, but to continue to negotiate with Rotary Inc. and Healthy West Orange to see if those funds could be used at another project that we were working on, which was the rehab of Town Hall. These are not funds that the town has access to right now for Town Hall rehabilitation. So that's why council left it open for staff to meet with the Rotary Inc. and Healthy West Orange on trying to figure out what they would be supportive of to change the agreement from one project to another project. So staff did what council wanted, which was to bring back to you a proposal that would gain support from Rotary Inc. and Healthy West Orange, which the only addition to what was previously submitted was the gazebo area. Now that's why it's in front of you today, is because the agreement that we have that we're currently not adhering to because we're not moving forward with the project, but the end of the agreement is in May of next year. It's only fair to let them know whether or not we're going to keep proceeding with this project as far as utilizing the funds, so they can either find another project or use the funds somewhere else. The reason why we haven't repaid the funds is because, again, if we can reutilize those funds for the rehab of Town Hall, then we wouldn't have to repay those funds. So that's why it's in front of you today. We had previously had, I think, 2 or 3 workshops relative to the original layout. Then that was changed in order to meet the intent of what Rotary Inc. and Healthy West Orange would support in an agreement. And that's why we try to have a meeting on December 7th with HPB, but they didn't have a quorum. And that's why we're here tonight to figure out, is this a direction council wants to go forward with as far as the entertainment gazebo, the other rehabs to town hall. And the bridal suite, which is now considered a multi-purpose room, which can be transitioned into bathrooms with no objection, in order to provide restroom facilities for those that are on the basketball courts for events, so on and so forth. I went through a long question and answer with town council today as far as sending out an email relative to the questions that I heard and would have been addressed at the December 7th meeting if there would have been participation. But
How many residents attended then?
0. 4 council members were on that call, which we decided to end the meeting because we didn't want the appearance of violating any sunshine laws or appearance. So the direction from council back in August, I think it was clear, was to work with those 2 other entities on seeing how we can possibly still maintain that funding. And that's what's in front of you tonight. There was no trying to rush things or anything like that. Unfortunately, there is deadlines because the contract is technically in breach right now. And we're trying to extend that in order to proceed with those monies that we don't have. These rehabs are going to be probably over $1 million, if not more. And with the assistance of Healthy West Orange and Rotary Inc., we have the possibility of getting $700,000 of that for these rehabs, if council wants to proceed forward. So that's the background of why we're here today. But most of the comments and suggestions that were received in the 3 workshops that we did have, I believe that staff has adhered to all of those, including the gazebo, which came through the negotiations that were ongoing with Rotary Inc. and Healthy West Orange. So as far as the public input, we want to maintain the historical designation. And Brad Cornelius will go through that as far as who we've been in contact with, who we've retained, as far as experts in the field. This facility does not take away its historical designation. And you'll hear from Brad tonight that what we are doing will not. The other thing was, public input. Yes, we did hear about the pavilion, specifically about the pavilion, and relative to the event space and still wanting some areas for entertainment. Now, people say that, well, you're just doing this to increase your rent revenues. Our rent revenues are about $40,000 out of an $8 million budget, which is 0.005%. If I were to increase that by $20,000, you'd still be at around that percentage point. So this is not revenue generated improvements. The way that it was looked at.
So we're not even.
For the budget.
He's listening. Just as we listened to.
Yeah.
Address it when we get to that. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where I left off. The money is not budgeted as far as the construction until I have a design to go on from. Currently, there is no approved design for me to establish a budget for those improvements. Now, currently we have money put away to work on the design and the engineering for whatever is approved by town council, but the actual construction costs are not allocated in this fiscal year because I don't know what they're going to be. If town council just wants the floors redone, I can afford it. If we're looking to do the rehabs of what's been presented in front of you tonight, I don't have it. If we're going to self-fund it and not utilize grant funds, I don't have it. We would have to save over several fiscal years in order for us to make those rehabilitative improvements to town hall. So the intent, I believe, from council was to see if there was a meeting of the minds or compromise to utilize those funds to help revitalize the town hall. Now, whatever council decides tonight, I'll be more than happy to take to Rotary Inc. and Healthy West Orange. As everybody knows, I work at the behest of town council. I don't run independent of those decisions. So the next step would be if council agrees to the concept that's in front of you tonight, or an amended concept then I have the ability to take it to Rotary Inc. and to Healthy West Orange to see if they will, one, be in favor of it, and two, amend the grant agreement to include those improvements in lieu of the pavilion. So town council or the staff has been working underneath that guise of making sure that whatever is whatever improvements is going to be approved will meet the historical designation, trying to incorporate as much public input as possible, look at safety, accessibility, and functionality of town hall. Understand that there's a lot of ADA issues that we currently have in town hall, one of which is there's no access to that stage. So these improvements will make sure that people that are wheelchair bound do have access to that stage. And also that the restroom facilities are adequate for the needs of not only existing town hall, but making sure that we take a look at, do we need additional restrooms within the actual structure that we have right now? Because when we do have town events, there's always a line out that door because we have two restrooms, one male, one female. And then also looking at additional enhancements, which would be the bump out for the restrooms to accommodate the, I think it was 3 and 3, which would bump it out over to the parking lot. The bridal suite was just, it was thrown out there for discussion to see if there would be public appetite for that. And bridal suite might have been the wrong description of it, but that was a description that came up at the time. But from hearing from the public, again, that multi-purpose room can be utilized for restroom facilities for the people in the basketball court, the people that are, during events, so on and so forth. Because right now there is no restroom facilities for people that are out there playing basketball, utilizing it for exercise, picnics. They would have to go to the library or come to town admin. So if you look at the existing floor plan, and unfortunately don't have the capabilities to go through it up there. But the only enhancements which were part of the agenda packet that was presented to you that are different from the original one is that bump out for the gazebo and the bridal suite to a multi-purpose. There's probably 2 more slides so you can get to it. And the ADA accessibility. So you can see, go back one, right? So in A and B, A gives you more room, and then B gives you the ADA accessibility, and then you can see the restroom facilities, how it's expanded to accommodate the town hall. And then the restroom or the bridal suite that's over in the top left corner, that would be the multi-purpose room and or bathrooms, depending upon what town council decides. And with the Rotary Inc., what they agreed to when I met with them was that they would be willing to fund the entertainment gazebo enhancements and ADA accessibility issues, especially when it comes around the stage. And I'm trying to remember what the third one was. Oh, the kitchen, to revamp the kitchen area, which I believe we all agree that it needs a lot of TLC. Brad, can we go next slide? Keep going. So here's the elevations for what has changed. Is the gazebo that you're looking at on the top and bottom. It's the bump out to the northwest of this structure right now. Go to the next slide. And that's another elevation. Go to the next slide. And then you can see the entertainment pavilion that's over at the top right corner of the site plan that's presented behind you. So all staff is looking for is some direction from town council on, do we take this to Healthy West Orange and Rotary with the understanding that they've already kind of given its blessing, or do we amend this and then go back to renegotiating those funds for the enhancement of town hall, knowing that that's probably unlikely if that entertainment gazebo is taken away. We did hear from both positive and negative feedback relative to that entertainment gazebo. So there are restrictions, when it comes to rental facilities and special events. There's additional restrictions you can put on those. One is you can ask them to shut down earlier as far as 9 to 5. You know, when it comes to the sound of town hall, and I think we should actually address this anyway, regardless of the town hall enhancements or the fact that there may or may not be a gazebo, is restricting the times that the noise is going out from our special events and from town hall rental facilities, because we have the ability to do that. With the noise ordinance, it's a lot harder to do that. But when it's written on paper, it's easier to enforce, knowing that they know the rules before they actually rent these facilities.
And you know, and one of the things, Robert, is I drive to grass events. 0 outside. Except soccer, you know, does every committee get 2 events? So we look for some way to rank the impact of those events. Because obviously some events are you know, greater impact on neighbors than others. You know, I don't live a block and a half away from here. I understand people can complain about it. So I appreciate that. But there was 0 appetite in it. So if it came from the committees who didn't want to festival, didn't want to take any chances with their own events. So but that's a conversation that remains available to happen if that's something we could have. The other things before we get into further conversation, and I know that John needs to have some conversation as well. If there's a, what do you call it?
Sneaky stink.
On direction on what people wanted and what we had approved and agreed upon by to move forward with. We had some contract, we had some agreement. And then we tore down the community to assist in that. People saw the space like the space. So I agree with that. But I think, you know, sometimes when you do this, you got to look at the folks that live with, look at the people that we hear from and say, all right, well, we went the direction. But what if we're just going to go the direction? It doesn't mean that there's not a solution that works for the town, which works for our community, which works for the building, and which works for future generations. And that is why we came back to town council. It's shine and said, you know, perhaps there's a path forward we can look at that will incorporate what we heard from the public, but still allow us to build for the future, and to utilize those dollars and to not embarrass partners, to not embarrass ourselves. It's never good to become agreement and then you don't live up to it. It's not like so, you know, council gave us that permission, gave me that permission, then go talk to some of the stakeholders and see if they're what can we do, build upon this potential renovation that is desperately needed for our town hall. A historic designation for a building is incredibly important. It does not mean, never does it mean that you can't have a function, safe, and justice. And you go by the guidelines and you live up to the intent of your agreement and you make sure that you're mindful to what you're doing. When this building was moved, it didn't have those surfaces on that. Those surfaces were added for functionality. Just like we can continue to do some of those sheets to better protect the building. This file right now. Roll it on the floor. It's going to go all the way to the center. Word, because it doesn't seem very sturdy. Engineer, so obligation. Protect. And then, in terms of why it took a little bit into the 90 days that I missed work, fortunately, some big players in the conversation lost their grandson. Tragic. It's crime. So, and I do it again. So, I think that we need to make sure that all of it clear, not to subvert, not to move forward a single agenda. There are just times when as a leader, it's in our best interest to take a pause and to make sure that we see try that are in the best interest of the town. But that way we're not in compliance with our agreements. We don't make ourselves a person like God with the largest funder in the county, which is not always moving forward. That really prepares our partners. Rotary. And that is, we're always being solution focused and solution minded. What this was, it's not about Rotary, it's not about Rotary. We need to have expense, and that's fine. To have timeframes or ordinances to make that better for the folks in the focus. That certainly table as well. But just because we have a better town hall, it doesn't need working to do the best we can for the town itself. We don't need to be, it doesn't need to be a technological masterpiece, but it does need to be functional, safe, and protected. So that's part of that. Just want to explain that. So there were some questions, so to address that in a very forward manner. So that's what I'm saying. So Robert, go ahead. To John.
Yeah, whether John or Brad to address the historical integrity and how we're maintaining that through improvements that we do. Because I know that was one of the big issues. But again, to reiterate, the reason we're here tonight is to bring back a solution to the whole pavilion, town hall. We're trying to figure out where we would be able to utilize money. Now, if we're not going to utilize that money and self-fund it, then we would have to wait a few years before we do those improvements. But I think you all read the Q&As and went through all the
we took the components of the agreement, just so remind us because our equal years clear on this.
Right. Well, the first was that we had to commence within 18 months. We're in violation of that. Number two, we'd have to be completed with the project by May of 2024. We're not going to make that time frame. What the grant included was $1 million to construct a entertainment pavilion, which included audiovisual items, bathrooms. Trying to think what else.
The whole
Concession, kitchen, and then the exercise piece. But again, that was voted down by town council. But the new way of looking at it is through this grant would be to and include those elements into this. Now, some may call it a concession stand, others would call it a kitchen enhancements over here. But the entertainment gazebo, you can put AV stuff in it or not. It could be an open air system to where it's just mostly for choirs, bands, stuff that you would really see in a small town community with the gazebo, similar to one that was proposed over at Fifth Avenue Park. I think that was about 10 years ago when they were looking at the gazebo in that area. But I don't want to take away from Brad's presentation. He's been standing up there for quite some time. But he can go through all the elements that we went through with Secretary of Interior, federal government, and the state, and who we have on board to make sure that we're keeping the historical designation intact.
Sorry.
Thank
Thank you, Robert. Again, Brad Cornelius, Wade Trim, contract with town planner. I also want to introduce, I have a friend this evening, is Doug Burrick. Doug is a professional landscape architect here with Wade Trim. He actually lives over here in Osceola County. And Doug was part of this review of the comments, providing a recommendation. Doug's background, actually, he was the first chair of the City of St. Cloud's Historic Preservation Board. So he's been part of that board through the process. So Doug will help me if you have detailed questions as we go through this, but so I'll start here real quick. So, as Robert said, the staff did send these proposed plans to the state, to the Florida Department of State, the State Historic Preservation Officer, to review and provide comments back to the state, back to the town on the concept sent to the state. Now, I will say that is the process that happens here. It's the primary entity that you coordinate with is the state of Florida, not the national. The state of Florida that goes there. So sent to them. The SHPO, which we'll call them the State Historic Preservation Officer, she then responded back on September 6th with her comments and questions on the proposed plans that were submitted to her. And when the town got those back, they approached me at Wade Trim and said, "Do you have someone that can help look at these comments and see the way to address them and how they impact others?" I said, "Sure we can." So we have within our company and in our PowerPoint, oh, I'm sorry, Dorothy, can you go to the next slide, please? In our PowerPoint, we have two folks in our company. Doug is one of them. We're gonna use Doug, he's here. Our other one is Arthur Mullen. Arthur is not here, he's in the Detroit office, so he's up in Detroit right now. But Arthur is our lead historic preservation planner for Wade Trim. He has a master's degree in historic preservation from Columbia University. And he's also federally qualified as historic preservation under the federal historic preservation law. So he has a special qualification. I can give you his full resume, I won't, but Arthur is very well qualified for this. So what we did was Arthur and Doug together reviewed the comments and prepared the recommendations back to the town on how to address those comments. I was facilitating doing this. Again, I'll provide a summary. If you have specific questions about any of these, Doug can answer those more specific questions. So first, as the mayor said, the designation is, next please. It's not a prohibition on changing law. It doesn't mean that you can't do anything to the building, protect it, to maintain it. What's important though, and again, as I stated earlier, is that those improvements are done in a way that ensures farming design and making sure you maintain that historic connection of that structure and what's good. So it's not you just wholesale change it. You remain consistency with that historic connection of that building. So you can do that, and that's part of this process. The other part, just so everyone is aware, the town of Windermere, you are a certified local government for historic preservation by the state of Florida. And that's why you have your historic preservation. Because of that, you make the determination locally through your historic preservation board. And you have to go through this process. It's in your code, it's in your land development code, it's a requirement. That before you go forward with any kind of construction, that the historic preservation board has to issue what's called a certificate of appropriateness. Basically, that those things that have been done to the structure that they find to be appropriate based on the standards for historic renovation. And what are those standards? And that was mentioned earlier. It's standards that are published by the federal Secretary of the Interior. There's a documentation. There's 10 standards that you evaluate, determine whether a change to the historic structure is appropriate. And those are what are used. And that's actually what Doug and Arthur used. Next, please. Other important part to understand is that the historic designation isn't because of when this was built long ago. The historic designation includes any alterations that happened to the building up to 1994 when this building was nominated and listed. So any of the other changes that have happened over time up to 1994, that's what the evaluation gets. It's not against what it was like in 1927. It's how does it reference to all the change up to that point of nomination and list in 1994. So that's important to understand as well. So generally, that what was submitted to SHPO and it's still kind of general process information and plans. The primary response back from the state and SHPO officer was provide us more information. Provide us more information on the materials that you're using, provide us more information on the methods of construction and how you're going to construct it. That really was the core of the response back. They did give some specifics, which I'll get into here. But generally, that's what the SHPO officer said, is give us more information. So, and that's really what the next steps would be. So and I'll go through the main points that was listed by the SHPO. One of the areas that the SHPO identified was a change from a flat to a hip roof. She didn't say you couldn't do it. What the comment was is provide us information about how making that change maintains the appropriateness with the structure and meeting those requirements under the Department of the Interior. So it wasn't you can't do it, but provide us more information on how you will do it to ensure it maintains consistency. What one way to do that would be maybe reinstall that original railing on the roof edge to lessen the massing of that hip roof now. So it's kind of broken up. That's an idea that you can do to help mitigate that change in the look. And we do think this hip roof could be made compatible with some more design and some more work on that roof. And providing that information to the SHPO officer. Next, please. The next major comment that was provided by the SHPO officer was in terms of the general renovations that were happening, the use of party board for that. And what was said earlier, it's preferred to use the original materials. That is the preferred method to do it. Absolutely, it is. But it doesn't preclude the use of other materials if you're able to do it consistent and make it appear and be like what was there prior. And that's what the recommendation is. And this is what, again, the SHPO officer said, provide us some information that, you know, how will the hardy board be applied that it will mimic what was already here at town hall, change the character and the look of it. The other part of this is under this time, this is the west elevation. So on this side, that had so this is something that can be addressed by the town. And ultimately that hardy board, if it's used, that it's applied, that it matches the appearance and profile of what would have been there before. So you can do it, it's just the design and how you do it. With the rotted wood replacement, same comment, basically, give the SHPO more information about how you're going to do it. And again, matching the profile and design of what's being replaced. Again, it's preferred to go to the original materials, but it's not required as long as what you do to maintain that character and that look of it. So that was that comment. There was also a comment by the SHPO about the metal roof. Again, it was mostly providing more information. And the SHPO did not object or support the metal roof. He didn't say this can't be or should not be done, but it really looked at how can you provide more information to show how the visual impact of the structure will be mitigated so that it doesn't overwhelm or conflict. Again, handy because they also, the SHPO in her comment back to the town recognized the storm protection and the different benefits of a method that it can be done, just be sure that you do it consistent with the design and character of the structure. The SHPO had no objections or concerns with the proposed handicap ramp. She had no objections or concerns with it. And part of that, and Doug can get into this more detail than I do so, is when you have new things being added to an historic structure, if you maintain separation and clear separation between what is historic and what is new, that's okay. You can have that. As long as somebody, you know, when you do it, somebody doesn't confuse, oh, that was part of that original 1994 structure. I say original 94, because that's the date that we connect. And that's why the SHPO had no concerns with the handicap. It had that proper separation. Concerns with that. With the multi-purpose room, as currently proposed, the SHPO, this was actually one place, to be very clear. He said that proposed multi-purpose room as currently shown is fully compliant with the standard. So she had no objections to the stand, to the proposed multi-purpose room and supported it and said it was fully compliant. This gets us to the next one. On the other side of the coin, the SHPO had lots of concerns about the proposed restroom addition. And that was probably the most significant comment that was provided back to the town. And the concern was that it burned up the facade of the building as folks look at it from the outside, which is something you don't want to do. It's historic preservation. And what the SHPO said, look for other ways to accommodate this. He was very clear that that would not be compliant with standards. As Robert said earlier, this is something that both our government and discussion. What is an alternative? Well, an alternative would be don't do the separate restroom addition. Make that multi-purpose room the restroom. Make that the restroom because that building is fully compliant, and you would have no problem doing that with the SHPO and the review because the SHPO said that building, that multi-purpose room is fully compliant. So that would be an alternative to take care of that concern from the SHPO's of that proposed restroom. Next year. In terms of the gazebo, the performance gazebo. When we went to Arthur and Doug, the concern that we had was maintaining that separation from the building, from the town hall building itself, because it's a new structure added to the area. So our recommendation was not to make a roof connection between the gazebo and the building, which there isn't, as you see today. But the other recommendation that our group had was taking the proposed roof of that gazebo and bringing it lower and reducing the massing of it. Because if you look at it, I'll let you kind of see that it appears to be pretty massive when you look at it next to the slope and the town hall. So again, bringing that down and making it less massive. But Arthur in his review does meet the requirements of the standards that it is separate from the building. It's somebody might be confused that it's part of this building in the beginning. But I do want to say about this too. We did not look at it from the perspective of should or should we not do it or any of these other issues. We just looked at it from a design. So again, we think this pavilion can be done, gazebo can be done. And ultimately, Arthur and Doug all very strongly believe that as we move forward with this process and continue to flesh out the design and construction methods and materials through the public input and through the discussion, that you will be able to make the renovation of this town hall compliant with standard, Secretary of the Interior, that maintains the historic integrity of town hall and also provides the needed upgrades of this town that needed for some. So we don't think we can't do this. We absolutely can do it. There's just some more work to get done. So that's my brief summary. Again, I've got here if you have any more specific details about it.
John and I are here to answer any technical questions relative to the new layout that's been presented in front of you. But again, with the bump out that Brad had talked about, that would be on the south side of the building, would be for the restrooms over here and add additional restroom facilities. Now, if you were to take that little bump out, you'd still have 4 restroom facilities that you'd be able to accommodate in that back area. And you can see that in the description back there. So you're just eliminating with 2 stalls. 2 stalls in the back.
That bump out, and so to be clear, SHPO said that if you do backboard siding, we can make that happen. So I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater because there is an opportunity for us to skip on. But I think if we could just take that bump out and then turn the multi-purpose room into restroom facilities, that makes sense, right? And then we also have the ADA rent coming to this, we now have ADA accessibility to it. And I think it's important for us to reflect back a little bit. Sorry, Robert, I'm not gonna go into big things, but it's important for us to reflect back and how we got here, right? The only town council asks us to look at something instead of that or down south. We needed resting, we needed investment, we needed these things, and so that's how we got to where we're at. And so I think as you guys are thinking about where and how we move forward, staff is here to just support you guys. So you give us direction and, you know, we're gonna walk alongside you. So the reason for the multi-purpose room was, and what was that was given to the APB that said this is at the facility, so that's how we did it. So we taken information, we incorporated design, and we do that. And so I think it's important for a lot of the residents, we have detailed information and detailed communities and take in a lot of information, digest it, and we present design to you guys. And so I like staff a little bit because I think it's important for them to understand that we're just trying to do whatever it is like the city we're done. And after having this long conversation tonight, but also having a lot with Brad and Stizzo, look, they're going to support it. At the end of the day, he was responsible to make sure that they ultimately get the recommendation. What we're presenting tonight is acceptable to them. We find it opportunity. We're presenting to you a concept. No different than with the town facilities. And we modified, we adjusted it. We're looking at the concept. So all the details completely work. It's really understanding the footprint and what is different and aligning to our requirements that people have asked us to do through the circulation board, through those that use the facility. And, you know, quite frankly, you guys have the opportunity to decide what you want to do. It's control. Oh, we're gonna have a new town hall and it's gonna last for another 100 years.
Thank you, John. Appreciate all the presentations, as well as all of the public comment. I know it's gonna have a lot of questions, in discussion. I also, you know, want to be clear too, that there is not, it's not. Take it as, and you can look at it, say, hey, you like this, and this, is that? Ask for the seat. It's permission from council, direct staff to continue with the process or not. And so to make sure that that process would be with that. With the mindfulness that there are restrictions on computers and we need to do our best. Because we signed an agreement. We won't go against it. In every way, shape, and form. But it does create some issues and some challenges that we'll address. So also, let me be clear, this is not, it's not for anything else. It's not things that you want to make a part of it. So that, but conversation looks very good. Just like that. It's not that we can just look directly into the door as we see it. You know, we see the brains. There's make sure that we do what we can to kind of meet those needs. Doesn't mean that there's not flexibility in conversation that you know, conversations that we've had in terms of trying to stay part of it's important. So with that, addressed.
Well, I guess I'll start with it, this is a lot, this is a lot to unpack, this evening, so, as we voted down the, I look back at how we got there as well. And I think we got there because we didn't have adequate and more timely feedback from the public. When we were in the agreement, I think the council understood what we were getting into, but obviously the resident didn't understand it. When that was then put forth, the plans and drawings, and we saw what we could get and tore down the building and got into an area that we didn't appreciate the wood full stop, during those discussions, we had whether we should give them back, is there a solution? We allowed the mayor to go down if there was a solution to do that. What I'm afraid we're doing now, though, is going down the way without getting sufficient feedback from the public on this specific design. I like, I think it fits the bill for the town. The problem is that it's for preservation without having to form at a town public workshop that only staff and 3 members of town showed up to wasn't what was intended. I just don't have significant feedback. I've heard everything in the audience tonight. Now it's a pleasure for them. I've got several emails that are around. So, I think we need to really go into this delivery. As far as, the SHPO, I think Brad's done a great job going down that road. Having done a couple of these projects, working with different state SHPOs, that's the way the process works. And, the Department of the Interior does nothing but paper and emergency register. The state is for preservation law. I went and dug up the original application for commission register. Did everybody know the shingle and the exterior the exterior of the building here? This was made of original, but it's still on like the rest. It didn't have the enforcement. It didn't have construction record. It didn't have any, so even then, the submission for registry, the facility is there. They have pictures of the period. But I think, with that in mind, I think we can get there from the thing that the preservation office. But what I don't want to do is support this, because that really puts it, we're gonna have different opinions. I'm different opinions before we make a decision. So with that in mind, I'll
That's good feedback. So, again, it doesn't preclude the opportunity for additional public input as well. So, part of it is just, one of the things I think we learned when we worked on the town facilities, it's all have, some options, right? A couple different renderings and some specific measurements. You can walk in and see, I think that helps as well. So, just a little feedback. Thank you. Thanks for hearing.
First, very nice for the following. There's a lot of discussion here that is within totally untrue. They take ownership. We see there's a lot of these that do you think this work? Yes, we put 90 days that we can pass them, but it didn't happen. I think staff has done a great job looking at other ideas. And to focus on the rehab of the town hall, that was really something they pulled in, looking for other ways to get done. that project was started in spring or actually before that. Where did we get to? We didn't- middle of the plans, we think, there is lack of public notice on it. I spoke to no less than 25 to 30 residents today. Committees that I, neighbors. Overwhelmingly, it's a support, I mean to, yes, and I would negatives. And I've talked to those negatives, they appreciate it. But I think we serve as large enough. It's not everything in general in group. That's insulting. To be honest, I'm in this room. I live on the other side of Jennifer Lane, but I think my family's been here the longest out of everything. We got the deepest ties. I care about this town very, very much. So looking forward, I want to do this. I do think we need more public input in this. You know, I think we're going to be surprised if it's good. The architect did really good work. I think we need to follow the SHPO's request for more information and their guidance. I think that's definitely. I think we look at savings. We're turning it into, oh, we're looking for a place to put it, big events. This is about savings. Because it's falling here more than we need to be on. We're committed. We're in that kitchen, the bathrooms. There's a lot of shit here. It's not, oh, let's fix a railing. It's bigger. A lot of it. That's my first concern because this is in longer expensive. This place got to fire. There's not no registry, everything. And that's, you know, looking at other historic registered buildings that have lost their designation. 99% of them burned down or were demolished. It wasn't because they enhanced the building. It wasn't because they changed it to make them functional. It was because they were destroyed. That's something that has to get in here. We have rentals that you turn up. Okay? But really, we gotta fix those things. We need a building. Important.
The Councilors Williams, and I think on the way to getting the feedback that comes first down, first players discussing is the president saying, support it, it's helpful to give us feedback that is pretty specific in terms of, do you like art? I'm not like the art part of it. You like, you know, whereas there's a specific issue or challenge, take more, that's okay too, but it really does help. Think ahead of what folks like and not. So, you know, I just encourage everybody to have solid feedback. You like this start with that's really helpful because you'll start to hear the same things again and a better area you should focus. Any other comments? Hey.
I think that we probably should look and talk before we just don't put the beat here. In fact, I really love this body. I'm happy to Shippo mentioned it about then we don't have to move it in. But
Thank you for the Comments? First names.
So I have, I've been paying attention to the plan back in 2018 and I the zones that was submitted did not include any of the gazebo or the extension to the front porch or the addition of the house window to act as discussion and our vacation. So unless I'm misunderstanding that, we don't have feedback from out, so this is like these done. The feedback from people verbally since last week workshop that most people were not this was this kind of a change. All of the other workshops we've done pretty much since COVID and throughout the public workshops learning have been a repeat, workshop 1, workshop 2, workshop 3, but people who can't come one night to attend another night. This is kind of maybe what the proposed plan work, and we didn't notice on the website. Even I didn't know that there was positions of the gazebo and portion and all that stuff. So we do need a lot of exploration data. Before you realize people change their mind, those are things happen and we put the part before the court on some of the decisions that were made because we didn't have enough public input. Thankfully, we're doing that now. And the challenge is done to get public input. But I do have to say, with the CIPO, I do these alternate steps that they have as part of my job. And I'm the same kind of things that perhaps people with weight certain to do. The bathrooms, I agree with the idea of having the ability to not so much opposed to that, but in the emails that we all received from council today, hopefully I received them all, there's some issues with that today, but a lot of the ones that I saw, either the one there's no way to change it at all. It's supposed to be included. The visualizing staff, which is also the workshop screen that can come down from the roof of the gazebo. Well, but that was where we want
There's a tracking screen.
So, people want to maybe based on the location of the gazebo back to your point. Also, the gazebo and the dimensions of the overall building because none of that was available. And that results from what the gazebo right now that is is 28 feet, and 28 feet, taking away part of the diagonal. The porch that is proposed on the north side of the building, which I do remember in space, but not existent to a gazebo. When talking about that seemed like 30 foot. So when you look at that scale compared to what the existing town has, very exterior distance, I understand that the COVID show that it is about to have, which is why course had to be these several years ago and was called at the previous meeting. But these two things are the things I actually want to take from. There was a lot of time about the museum door. Speaking now, it's not specific session there, there wasn't for it. So we really need to go back and we can get the public input. It needs to be noted as community revision so that everything is here. And see these dimensions, see it laid out, as we did with the people need to see this. It's like, I figured out the country, but today that's about 33% of the overall vision that we plan to do. But one thing we should know is that it not drastically change the look from the front of the building. So in this case, from Main Street. So the reason for the job not being is because you're changing it, Jeff, as John was feeling that you can change the boundary board in front of the fire so that you can tell if you're feeling in addition, but I don't actually think that would be very better. When we want to look as much as we can. So I feel like you need to have the information from zero results. And I feel like even though we've not had one, but still conservation work, it isn't fun. If we have this for the appropriate as a order. So I don't think it's the final property to be forward and spend on it. So we have to place it doesn't matter if it's fine.
Just hire. And the other thing. The capacity. And when I say capacity, I mean, you can walk right through. I think that's 10 days through. Of efficiency. So, just saying, you have to have. You have to do that. I think that you want to. Do that. I think that it's important to look at making sure we have the tools to make decisions, whether we use, whether we are successful in partnering for funding, or whether we do it on our own. Either way, most of these changes need to occur at maybe not to the same scale and shape, right? But fortunately different. But the kitchen needs to be done and the bathrooms need to be done. Yeah.
But I just don't want to basically just to take the funding after that we may not as a town and then the rest are not on for the purpose of plan. There are the groups that was mentioned in the memo that was prepared by the winter bring here for preservation and then they have to be on something. But the rest of it is that we can get funding for town refurbishment, but what we're looking to do is fix what we have here, but we just
Just a real quick thing. What? If you address people, in the recommendation, would they still,
Exactly, but my understanding is what was submitted to SHPO did not have that, but what we reviewed, we did have that when we reviewed it. That's why our comments have comments about the gazebo on it. On the gazebo, correct, yes, sir. Not that I'm aware of, no.
Yeah.
So I guess my. So part B is pretty about. I do speak as somebody. I've seen changes that happen. Most of them, I've been all meetings downtown. The reason that, the reason that the pavilion didn't go forward is because people didn't do things. And didn't inform themselves with the department. But when they did know, it was overwhelming, never seen. Having attended the meeting, never more everything. Never seen more everything is in the field. And every person that was in there. Who's not whatever, you guys, downtown people stop. People care about them. When so we're not giving somebody all the some stuff. We're people that take care of people. And that's the look for some people who the sound lights because of the we're not going to do their song. Anybody lives open this side. Again, HOA community. We should have been back what we haven't made on those communities. Just so happens I'm a town council, I'm the downtown. But I think that we get a message meeting, their range of matter more than mine, I think it's a message meeting. That's their, that's their, that's their kids, that's their, I play football on my street every day. With the little kids next door, I care what's happening in my street. I'm speaking now. You care about this street, so just to clarify, this speak, I speak as a person concerned, I'm going to do it first. But I'm going to speak as a person concerned. And that's the way that community works. I've been doing it for 30 years, and they do some basic that. They use their lot of those up in church. And then so speak not against any other part of the town. They should speak out for what we fast forward. Based on this that I know, says here, I did a text, one of it works. We've seen it where nobody is now politics, and just me and so people, some people, other things that way to I've never seen Brexit. 25 years. The opportunity, and then green spaces, like that, I'm big fan of that. Architectural, I think that the biggest reason was people were concerned about how to affect their quality of life based on the noise traffic. And that was partly because of the soundscape and designed to have things and concert and stuff. That's what I think. So, but there's also no that I'm moving to. Unfortunately, and everybody brings this sound. There's no question. So the we to put a sound stage, pavilion, we have to put a location to get the funding. That's the quick side here. So we took a grant for a few things in town. We did it. We said, okay, well, now that we can't do this, we can't do that. We can't do this. For now, we can't develop the way we want to. In spite of the fact that decorated very modest invitation, so a sound stage. So now, of course, put the sound stage downtown, in spite of the fact that most of the residents living downtown don't want it. Just because it makes it up. So it's a great for us, instead of us is one. And that's the problem. I'll do some of the work. But don't forget really putting the sound stage to get this drain. I don't right. Here's nothing out there. This is sort of put a sound stage. That's the biggest argument. That was the big moment that was the sound stage. Nobody did this. This is great. Please read everybody, John, up and down, you know, everybody brings about a little bit, especially bathroom right there, this part of it. Here is soundscape. So we take it, to pay for this renovation that we need, it puts them down that most people don't want. And once again, we're letting people control us instead of us enforcing. So if you need more work on this, and if you need more input, I'm just saying it's a slippery, we've been at it before, and I would expect to entertain an idea of looking for something to be fun. If the money's an issue, I don't believe that, because there's got to be a time. They don't listen to this. Maybe don't really downstage out there. And that's what it is. And I want to use Robert, this too. We can't stuff. You can't just say that. or just set Friday, or it has to be outside application, those sort of terminology. But for me, as a resident of downtown, resident of Windermere, I'm all in favor of innovation. I'm not do it, and I'm qualified to do it. I'm not in favor of taking and forcing them to do something to residents.
But one of the things is that the 183 signatures were based on a completely different project, which you can see that project is huge and doesn't. You can stuff for a lot. And my email inbox looks a hell of a lot. And we were talking about. I believe, while not everyone would love the pavilion idea or the gazebo idea, and it can be minimized and made smaller scale and that just, we can have those discussions. But to not work with partners to get a huge jump start on what we need to do. Every grant you take comes with restrictions and limitations. And of course you don't like it, but you're like, well, I can't pay for it all by myself. So why can't we use those funds, craft on those funds, and build support rather than just say, we're gonna give $1 million back. As well as take some money out of our reserves to pay off whatever we used already. Set us further back for, a pavilion, I'm sorry, a gazebo doesn't mean that AC/DC is coming to Windermere. It's just not happening. We've got the same events. Our events are consistent. If we have issues with what happens in this building, for private parties, it's $40,000. I'd rather give that up. I'd rather give that $40,000 than $1 million. We have to really think this through, because I think, and this is why I said what I said earlier, building set at events, and the events are not by any of the people that are in this room. The biggest events are the communities are here. So if we're upset with events, we can address that. It doesn't mean we can't address what's in front of us as well. With some authority and with some compassion and with some confidence. I cannot make the gap and the bridge that what we're making out here today is as something that people didn't support or didn't is the same as what we're talking. Yeah, you're being. Well, I wasn't, it's not, I was just thinking this out first. Well, we can't talk to each other in time, so we talk. This is how we have to go like this, like this is thoughts. So that's really so that's why I say is things on those facts. I'm going to be clear. But what was that news report is nothing what we're talking about here. Yeah. However, in my point is that footprint is not always the map. So if you have the same result, I agree. By putting a smaller sound station that can still have the same impact as large sound station, it can take effect. That's my mistake. But we that point. Okay. If we do so good, we do have a zero, we make sure that it's going to be to have a kind of lawyer. And that's my point, is that if it's events we're concerned about, but let's deal with the events, not hamper the future in terms of what our infrastructure building development look like. Let's be smart. If it needs to be smaller, make it smaller. But there's a lot of great little small things that happen here that are amazing and don't happen anywhere else. And that, from the 9/11 memorial to the veterans, so all those things we can benefit from that state It doesn't have to be an amusement. And I want to be, that's what I'm just on the conversation, because I think that if that express to the people, including me and all the people that fear is fear. I'm saying you are going to but if that express to be just that, I think you and it's because you're watching those fear that people and say, this is going to be more just not to be a good. But we have a conversation along with this video, we're now going to be I think was that when the community groups take it out to a lot of people that was not 100%. It was fear-based. It was well, they'll come, but that's not the order. We better with that. And having been problem control and not being yourself is a result of all. So now that we remove the fact that we're now talking about so it's part of that, but the event conversation came about the things that we received after that. And that's when we went to work and my conversation down the street, I think those things very simple. I've worked this hand in with the brothers or hand with the brewery to make sure that we're limiting that as much as we possibly can. And I think that if you ask it, she'll tell you it's better. But there's also in terms of what people want to do. I hear it's harder to spreads. People do this makes a great movie as a stressor. That's the basis, especially in this get to them so we can make those fears fun and still. Well, like I said, as long as then I think that was all. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Decked out with 80 all around.
Whatever council would to what's in and what's outside the gazebo. One thing that I just want to be clear. When you talk about the 90 days from August, we lost 60 of those because of the death in the family. So staff was provided with an insurmountable quest of getting something to you as short as possible with as much public input as possible that meets the needs of all the comments that were suggested. And you're talking 45 days in order to get all this information into one area in order to provide that information to you to meet at or around those 90 days. I think staff has done that. Can more public input be received? Absolutely. All we were looking for was, here's what we came up with that would pass the test from Rotary and Healthy West Orange. So I think on a staff standpoint, we did exactly what town council requested. Would we have loved more time? Absolutely. But we can't control that. We have to go based on the direction of town council.
But we can I think what we need to do here is do assessment. Get some additional public input, but I think that we want to, we hope that we can see what is positive about it, what people don't like it, scream and speakers are the issue, or that's a no-brainer. So, and I think that everybody is pretty confident that to kill it tonight, it seemed like a crime. Yes, we- What? It's gonna be a down.
Basically keeping for the state. So how do we go from that to the gazebo being added into it? And my other question would be is for the first out of wait with you, then you would think with something like something going to be what do they want to have? Not have them or we could have on the shop. And I is that it? And like
So that's what's in the agreement. With the equipment and agreement. There's a lot, part of it is that. While we get to make the end, the end is. There are multiple conversations that happen only because we have other stakeholders here that are invested in civic, all those lines. So. In the stars aligned and everything's gotta be aligned, otherwise, I think it's a pretty difficult. That's the part that we're looking at. It could be because, obviously, if the five are perfectly able to get it, then we've also got to get some consensus from that back. Key players to make that happen, but I think for that we all know exactly the table, what we can do. It's not personal, it's just, hey, here's what we feel like we can work through. Is that going to be enough to meet the spirit?
bring even with them just and
So, yeah, so it's pretty simple. I mean, we take an agreement and we look at what needs to be done here for improvement of town hall. Right? We've already talked. Councilperson Kennedy is on the council. We talked extensively about having the kitchen. The kitchen and the concession, those things be pretty simple. We would build up the kitchen, so it's a suitable kitchen for what our purposes are here. Open the door, that the concession, it doesn't trying to be creative, right? Doesn't mean that the window looks different or the door looks different. Doesn't mean that not in the spirit of the building, right? And then we looked at bathrooms. Bathrooms were a major bathrooms, we locked our bathrooms, we made the changes down here. So we went to work on the bathrooms. Now the bathrooms, some notes really, because I didn't know how far along were in terms of what the team was doing that was working on the renovation of the building. So we would have those things, just we charge staff to do that, and they really were getting up. Know about the that came from somewhere else. Now the purchase all that. So that needed, right? The porch rotary was something that we built, which porch, and told me that they're also interested in making sure that it goes back to the level that it should be. From there, then you got, well, if we move the ADA here, and we didn't talk. I like a single, I grew up, just to have an extension over there, a bit of a stage of some things like when you do the 9/11 part of it, like here and neighbors are down there, this is something. So if we can all get up there, so that'd be really nice, just little things like that. We spent a lot of money, setting up stages, after the occasion, and then time with this the police event, whether it's over truck or whatever, it would be stop it. We have to find where it would be nice to we could do that. We do we bring about like here out there. I mean, there's little things that they don't think are that exclusive for the community. I don't think this is we are. We don't want to be When park, we garden, but we do occasionally we celebrations. The people is fantastic. You know, all of this plays right into making that event better. That's not how. This is really sincerely, this is going. We really, and it's like they read some really good times. So we, you're, you take that, and look, you have to say, what we actually need to hear. And that's where you started, you know, thinking. Doesn't have to be that looks like the one that we designed, right? It could be different, it could be in more severe than what we are now. We can start talking to the community. That's how. So, and that's what my inbox reflects tonight. It reflects like, hey, I don't need to, when people start talking about storage, I know we're on the right track because it's work with them. That's like perfect. So, you know, I do think that the events can be, we're gonna have to somehow address and have a better appreciation of what, I know the parking is a big part of that and all that. So there's a lot of factors, but I don't think that would be.
Then any of the other places. So I would say, that we're in. From people that expect the products, I just think.
So when we agree to one person work. In the near future. Any objection to the vote? I don't think if you. Thanks for
Because I have to go back to Healthy West Orange and let them know what the game plan is.
Yeah.
Whether it's 1, 2, public input meetings in addition to a town council workshop. Because again, with the holidays, the earliest I'd be able to do something would probably be the
in the
January, February timeframe, just on getting concepts.
It was suggested that we do a town workshop. And we do a public input workshop. We can do those in person. I think sometimes I do like the virtual stuff, but I think that a lot of times we, depending on what it is, if we need to do visuals. Which that. I feel like it's a little easier. Allow increases and do our workshop after that, so we can take one and do something that's cohesive. In the meantime, we can work.
Public workshops, one in person, one via Zoom, followed by a town council workshop and plan presentation to the Historic Preservation Board for old business item A until the thing occurs.
Motion maker, person David, we have a second. Person Williams. Any further concerns that see? See none, we begin with councilperson Hayes. I appreciate that. Thanks everybody for sticking down, listening to a lot of back and forth. Positive. Next up, new business, I is a minute, 2 seconds in the council, like 1 and 2 as a single item, or you can pull those if you have any. Things area. This side is high and high together. Okay. Be true. Moving person data. Second. Again, going with the council person through. And put like a additional funding request for our product meeting goal for Shoreline and maintenance.
Yes, sir. The areas that we originally scoped did not include the additional areas that DEP wanted us to include as far as like. So the.
I'm not sure. I'm so sorry. I don't know if I get to that chance to speak again, but I want to thank you. Thank Brad, because I am so impressed by all the time that you've always spent in putting this presentation together and speaking with and explaining things to us in terms that we can understand. I also want to thank the mayor for planning. I especially want to thank him. Really, the amount of research that you have done is unbelievable. Not just in terms of the things that have been put on the presentation and the design, but how that's. And Tim, I want to thank you for your true honest opinion, even though you may not have been seen as a very forthcoming in terms of welcome opinion, but I want to say that I appreciated your feedback. Let me also, in brief, actually just point to something that I'm sure you bring it up, but Mayor. Is it sound that is right? Or is it? We need to have that performance to be able to work with.
So I think that the remaining piece being that just take the first that input that we need from the community. We'll make, we'll take all that, see what the breaker time. Matter to look at them. So I think if we bring this like feedback back to those workshops, like we heard tonight, that's going to be very, very helpful. And I think that's the best way to negotiate a path forward. So
I think it's the people not wanting to make excuses to the building. I
we'll see about for this. Yeah, so typically just so we do our frequency. And if I use right, we get 3 minutes, everybody can have like 3 minutes. So try to keep that. And also remember that system, but that is here. So it that our concerns by that. We look forward to see you guys at our next meeting. Discuss the project. You're done. And
the aquatic and lakefront maintenance, again, the areas that were originally scoped, Orange County EPD required us to include other areas that was not originally anticipated in the budget. So the additional monies, which is about, I think, 23,000 or 24,000 and change, will go to the maintenance of those new areas that are indicated with an asterisk. Whereas the original and the new proposed. This is almost a requirement of the EPD, so it's over my threshold, but I think we come back into it more.
In fact, do we have some kind of plan to show what plants were planted in the areas that you guys did see from walking down my message something in terms of what
Can you get that for? What's in the range, yeah, okay. In this question, concerns. Get a motion. First, Davis. First. Councilor Steves. Aye. Passes unanimous. Any councilperson. Thank you. Doing a great job with that. Back on that. As well. Deep appreciation for everybody involved. David. Success. We're working on to remain just for residents only, special night. Work on this. I know. Typically don't advertise. Try to keep it wide and try to stay informal. One of the pop-up little magazine stuff that it got a whole bell research. We did a litmus test for because we always talk about the people, how much is our town residents using these events and how much of it is outside influence. And I say because we're going to have 800 people. They got 7 less in influence. And then the whole thing, check in. Okay. So I think the total number is like 70. Out of that, I'm being projected. We have that we can go in town resident. 600. Deal out 500. But 60. Minimum friends. Third one.
My daughter was to bring.
It's always we and we never well we did a little test with that. And all right. Yeah, we did. Is that for review? The here local businesses and it's money. Get started. Thank you. And so make it a little bit more intimate. Focus on the Hoopa team. The group of those ladies done. They will have it coming out to 90 days of next year. Because you have to book every if you want to get something. They're good run. Good Garden.
Thank you. And, you know, certainly send my thanks and the community's thanks. So the neighborhoods, thank all of us. It was a great event. Shit on staff support as well. Any additional?
He's my dog, the other street, at least he's Scotland, we had some crack stand stuff on there. And I haven't had anything in a long time, but I was. There was street maintenance cleaner. But compared to stuff that was down out in front of my house, was a completely different color, and we found something talking that my neighbor, something else. I know, there was not a lot of time for falling. It was part of the document. So there was with the different pay rates. So we might that is going to be the same kind of thing. bit more pulverized. I'm also not going to be.
The paper based would be fine. Sure. Sure.
There's nothing.
So,
Because I thought I. And I mean, another thing for. Early, they were going. This is, I mean, this is still around.
Yeah. And just because we are coming back from the Monday, so we're gonna be worried about that. What we're doing is trying to bring the converter down to the original, to the new design on it. So what we're doing is we're spraying through some of the old stuff that we've seen in a number of years. We're gonna find stuff that's gonna come out of it, old shells, old concrete and everything else. So we're getting that. Material. What we have to do is drop the road down to the right of it. So we're getting to a lot of new stuff and we bring it to drive it and we'll be back. So. Give me some time. We're gonna work 40 years and, you know. So just give me some time, we'll get.
Years ago, that is green, kind of like 60s green bathroom tiles, painted green. Yeah. But then what versus the new green, that paving base, like I was saying, is huge improvement. From me, but that'd be all is.
Just real quick, just a couple quick updates for y'all. As y'all know, we have here at 603 Main Street, we've issued a code citation letter. So we'll continue to follow up with them and bring them into compliance. So just so you know that. It's 603 the old UMC building. The signage that they put out there, they did not get permitting for. They appear to have done work in the right of way with their landscaping and pavers. They didn't get a permit for that. They're illegally parking on the vacant lot on Oakdale. We have 2 issues with that. They also have an open building permit for a fire alarm system that hasn't been closed. And we believe there may be other things inside there that probably should have gotten permitted as well. And those are the ones that we've cited them on. We'll give them a day or 2 to respond and then we'll go after them. Yeah, it's Magnifica, I think is the name of the device. Mhm. And just on 500, the 500 block update, just with that one, they're still waiting on their FDP septic permit. The other update is they are gonna be moving the silt fence and security fencing on Oakdale back out of the right of way and onto the property line. That should hopefully happen this week if it hasn't already happened. So that's what I have the updates.
Happy holidays, everyone. Congratulations to running unopposed for the three of you and happy birthday. Remember. Summer will be following up with you in the next week with just a brief update. There hasn't been much happening, but she'll send you an email.
Easy. Sure.
People that are saved over time. From that is just make sure everybody sees that we're out there. And so we have seen a message board. TV. Tomorrow that. So we just wanted to share stuff. Stuff and since we've been doing to move the car. Their own machine.
I think it's awareness, and make everybody think about it too, but. In lock your doors. And don't be. If you're. To. Into the minute, sorry, some sort of sheet of bottom. Always far. Further. Before and I'll give some good appreciate all of the extra attention it is actually here, so let's give people an opportunity and let's not make people think that this is at least them in an easy crime. Oh, there. And that
We approve you. And this is just Randy, Andy, you, remember? I don't know.
again,
Plastics. Webinar for recording activities, I think the copy of that, and you that recording, I will email it to you. We'd like to spot all of you, okay, I'm going to. Oh, that's me. No, I didn't send it to you. You want to look at it? Yeah. Yes.
thank you very, very much. And Brian, appreciate that very much. Anything else from staff? Anything else from Scott? Mr. McKinley? You guys
Appreciate the taking time to get them. I would like to clarify. First of all, I think staff has done an excellent job in everything they've been intended to do. I like to see things done right. The motion to delay this repayment was made at the July town council meeting. It was given 90 days, and that was a motion. So to extend that, appreciate what you did, but to extend that, believe a follow-up motion should have been made at a future town council meeting within that 90 days to extend it further. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. You're probably correct that you didn't do that, but I just wanted everyone to know that there was reasons behind that. Best intentions. Such. If there is nothing else to do with the everyone, Merry Christmas, happy. Kids. The terms.